Hello everyone and welcome to today's Wild Rift guide. In today's guide we're taking a look at the Hand of Noxus Darius. Darius is an AD bruiser that is played in the Baron lane. When playing Darius, it's important that you play around his passive, trying to get as many stacks as possible to be able to deal the most amount of damage with his auto attacks and his abilities. Moving on to the build with Darius, you want to build a mixture of both damage and tank items, so you can be that frontline tank for your team, but you can also deal a lot of damage with your passive and all of your abilities. Black Cleaver is a really great first item, gives you a mixture of that health and damage that I spoke about, and also a little bit of ability haste. You have the Sunderer passive as well, which reduces the armor of the enemy champions, and the Rage passive helps him out a lot. When he deals physical damage, he gains extra movement speed, so he can close the gap between himself and the enemy champion, so he can use his abilities, keep stacking up his passive, and keep trying to get the ultimate resets. Then you have Dead Man's Plate. It's a really good tank item for Darius. Has the health, has the armor, has a little bit of extra movement speed as well, which again, as I mentioned, is quite helpful. You get the momentum stack, granting him even more movement speed, and the Crushing Blow also deals a little bit of extra bonus magic damage and also gets a little bit of a slow. Now for the boots, most of the time you want to go for armor boots. You can go for Mercury Treads as well if you're against a lot of magic damage and if you're against a lot of crowd control, but then you always want to go for Protobelt. Protobelt is a great gap closing boots upgrade. You can use Protobelt and then use that on top of the third ability Apprehend. Then you can use all your other abilities as well to deal a lot of damage. Death Stance, really good item since the rework and since all of the changes. Works really well with Triumph as well, one of Darius's runes. So you get the attack damage, the armor as well, a little bit of extra ability haste. You have the Dance and the Cauterize passive. The Cauterize passive, 35% of the damage dealt is received as kind of true damage over time, but with the Dance passive, the champion takedowns cleanses Cauterize remaining damage pool and restores it instead for 2% of your maximum health. So building a little bit of health is really helpful for Darius because you get the Death Stance passive, and it also works really well with Triumph. When you get kills with Triumph, you get resets, and you also get the healing from Triumph, and you also get the healing from Death Stance, which is quite helpful. Steris Gauge is that health item that gives you a lot of maximum health, 400 to be exact. You get plus 50% base attack damage as well. And you also have the Lifeline passive, so when Darius does drop low on health, you get a huge massive shield as well to keep you alive for a little bit longer. And then the last item, if you do need a little bit of extra magic resistance, then Force of Nature is a very great item as well because of the extra movement speed that you can get and the extra magic resist you can get as well from the passive. Now, the great thing with Darius and item-wise, you have a lot of great items that you can choose from. Spirit Visage is another great item to increase the extra healing. Brandwin's Omen is very good to reduce the critical strikes taken against you. Thornmail's very good. Warmogs is very good. There's a lot of items that you can go for, so you can be very flexible depending on your opponents, and even the damage item as well. You have items like Trinity Force, which is really good. You can change it out for Black Cleaver if you want to. You can also go for Death Stance if you want to before Dead Man's Plate and go for a little bit of something like this. You can also go for Divine Sunderer as well. There's a lot of great options for Darius for you to go for, so again, it kind of depends on the situation of the game. I feel like it's best to go Death Stance as a second item if you're against a Divine Sunderer user, because you don't really want to build a lot of health early on, because Divine Sunderer is very good against champions that build a lot of health. Trinity Force, I would say get if you're ahead. Black Cleaver is a lot cheaper and can be beneficial, but it's probably better when you're behind. And yeah, that's pretty much everything for the items. For the runes, Conqueror I think is the main rune for Darius. You can change this to Fleet Footwork if you don't feel that confident. You can stack up Conqueror with, you know, all his auto attacks and his abilities. It can take quite a while to stack Conqueror sometimes with Darius, but it can work very well to, you know, deal that killing blow with the ultimate. As I mentioned already, Triumph is a great rune in combination with Death Stance, and just an overall great rune for Darius, because what you want to do with Darius, you want to stack up all your passive and then use your ultimate to execute the enemy champions, and obviously you deal 5% more damage to enemies that are below 35% health, which means your ultimate is basically going to deal more damage, so you can get the resets on your ultimate and keep on, you know, getting the resets, keep on getting kills, and hopefully get yourself a pentakill. Adaptive carapace is for the laning phase. You get a little bit of extra health during the laning phase, and while you're below 50% health, you gain armor or magic resist depending on the damage you took in the last 60 seconds. Very, very good for laning phase. The same with Sweet Tooth as well, also for the laning phase. These can be swapped out for other runes as well. You can go for like Hunter Genius if you want to instead of Sweet Tooth. You feel like you don't need it. Adaptive carapace can be changed like Hunter Titan as well. Again, very flexible, and you can kind of go for the playstyle that you want. It's kind of same with the spells as well, the summon spells. You have Flash, and then the second rune is either Barrier or Ignite. If you want to play more aggressive, if you feel like you can get an early kill, then go for Ignite. If you want to play a little bit more passive, I think Barrier is the best option for you. So that's everything to do with the items, runes, and spells. Let's move on to the abilities. First up, we have Darius's passive, which is Hemorrhage. Attacks cause enemies to bleed, dealing physical damage over 5 seconds, and can be stacked up to 5 times. And upon reaching full stacks, Darius gains Noxian Might for a few seconds, gaining even more attack damage and applying full stacks of Hemorrhage instead of one to other targets. So this is kind of the main, I guess, purpose, with Darius, and the main thing you want to play around with Darius. So every single time you auto attack, you can see that there's a little bleed icon that goes around the target dummy. Every time you auto attack, when you use abilities as well, you can see that you can go up to 4 stacks, and at number 5, you can see there's a little Noxian mark at the top of the target dummy, and that's when you know you have the Noxus Might, meaning you gain even more attack damage, and you can apply 5 bleeds instead of 1. As you can see, if I hit all the other target dummies, all of them get Noxian Might, which means that gets 5 stacks applied to them straight away. For the first ability, we have a Decimate, which Darius swings his axe after a short delay, dealing physical damage. Hitting an enemy with the blade of the axe deals physical damage, heals himself for a little bit of missing health for each champion or large monster hit, and also applies a passive Hemorrhage. Now, the blade part of the axe is the outer part of the first ability. So if I hover over the first ability, you can see that there's 2 parts of it. You've got the inner circle, and then you have the outer circle. The outer circle is the blade. So if I stand too close to a target dummy, for example, like this one here, if I stand inside, you can see that I'm not going to do anything at all. The main purpose with Darius's first ability is that you need to try and land it on the outer half. As you can see, it applies a stack of bleed, and it will also heal Darius as well. Inner circle deals a little bit of damage, but doesn't really do too much on top of that. So it's really important to make sure with Darius that you always hit champions with the outside of the first ability. And as you can see, you can apply it to multiple enemy target dummies as well. As you can see, you can just stack up as many times as possible, and it's really, really good because then the healing also helps during the lane phase and also during team fights. For the second ability, we have Crippling Strike, which empowers his next attack for a few seconds to deal additional physical damage and slow enemies by a second. So it's just a quick little easy auto attack reset. When you use the ability, you can see that Darius's kind of stance change. His movement changes a little bit. When he auto attacks, you can see there's a little bit of a swing as well. And as mentioned, it is a auto attack reset as well. So you can do auto W, and as you can see, there's a really quick timer between the 2 auto attacks. So if I auto attack normally, you can see that there's a little bit of a delay. But if I use auto attack W, you can see that the delay is greatly reduced. Auto attack W, there you go, greatly reduced. So you can use this as a quick auto attack reset, and also the slow really helps as well, which means you can use the other abilities and land the other abilities like the first ability and the third ability. For the third ability, we have Apprehend. It has a passive which allows you to gain armor pen, and this gets increased every single time you level up the ability, which is really nice, which means that you don't really need to build any armor penetration on the Darius at all. And then the active is that it pulls enemies in front of him, slowing them by 40% for a few seconds. Now, it's really easy. Again, nice simple ability. You can see that the radius is not really that big, and you do have to get quite close with this ability. But as you can see, you can just pull enemies towards you, and then you'll be able to slow them as well. So you can combo this ability with like the second ability. You can E auto W, gets the slow from the Apprehend and also the slow from the second ability, which means you can combo that with your other abilities on top. So it can be comboed with other things as well, like your Proto Belt is a great This is a great reason why Proto Belt is very useful, because you can use your Proto Belt and then use your E straight afterwards, which means that you reduce the distance between you and the enemy. So say if you're in this bush, for example, you can go Proto Belt E, auto attack W, and then use your Q and auto attacks on top of that, and you can get 5 stacks as quick as possible. And lastly, we have Darius's ultimate, which is Noxian Guillotine. Darius leaps to execute a champion, dealing a true damage increased by 20% per stack of the passive, and also applies a stack of the passive itself. Now, killing the target with Noxian Guillotine refreshes its cooldown mana cost and grants Noxian Might for 5 seconds, and causes nearby minions and monsters to flee for 1.5 seconds. Now, this is what makes Darius great during a team fight. You already have so many AoE abilities, so much crowd control with all the slows, and also helps with the items, and then you can finish enemies off with the Noxian Guillotine, meaning that you deal a lot of true damage, you can execute the enemies, and if you can get the resets, you can use your ultimate multiple times during a team fight, which is what's made Darius just super fun to play as well. So the Noxian Guillotine is always best to use when you're fully stacked on your passive. And when you're fully stacked on your passive, that means you're going to get as much damage as you can with the ultimate, and as you can see, you can just slam dunk down. Really easy to do. It's kind of hard to show on target dummies, but I'll explain it more during the gameplay part in a second. But it's really easy to use. But like I said, just make sure you stack up your passive first so you get more damage down with your ultimate, and make sure you don't use your ultimate unless the enemies are low on health, so you can try and get the execute damage and try and get the reset, so you can use your ultimate multiple times during team fights. Onto the combos with Darius. There's a few little combos that I want to explain with Darius. The first one is comboing your flash with your abilities. So you can actually use your flash to close the distance and kind of surprise the enemies with your third ability. So if you use your third ability and then flash straight afterwards like that, it can be hard to do at first. So make sure you go into practice tool first. As you can see, you can kind of extend the range of your third ability, quickly flash, and then you just surprise the opponents, and then you can follow that up with your other abilities as well. So you can use E-Flash, Auto, W, use your Q, and other abilities as well. So then you can use your ultimate to execute the enemies. You can also use Flash with your first ability as well. As mentioned, with your first ability, you always want to try and land it on the outer part of the first ability. So what you can actually do is, if you know that you're going to hit the first ability on multiple enemy champions, and maybe you can gain Noxian Might from it, you can use your first ability and then use Flash straight afterwards, and then that means that you can kind of then the enemies don't really have time to react, and that delay that you normally get is not really a thing. So first ability, flash as soon as the first ability is about to deal damage, and as you can see, you can quickly just deal a little bit of damage and also stack the passive as well. So really helpful little tool there. And also the last one is just a quick kind of full combo for Darius. I kind of explained it all a little bit already, but what the main combo or the full combo is you want to use third ability, auto W, use your Q on top of that, auto again a few times, and then use your ultimate as soon as you get 5 stacks. Now you can auto attack a few more times afterwards because you do get an extra bit of AD, but if the enemies are really low already from that little basic combo, make sure you ultimate from the Noxian Might, because even if you don't kill the enemies, they're going to be getting dealt a lot of bleed damage. You can try and get that kill in the laning phase. Onto the leveling order. At level 1, you want to go for your first ability. It's really good during the laning phase if you want to stay back a little bit and use your first ability for a little bit of healing or dealing a little bit of poke damage, and you can also use this to try and farm some minions as well. Then at level 2, when you level up, you want to go for your third ability. This means that you can try and pull the enemy champions and try and auto attack a few times, and maybe stack your passive a little bit so you can deal a little bit of bleed damage. This on top of your first ability as well is quite helpful. Then you want to make sure you go for your third ability so you have all your abilities available, and you can try and use that early laning phase combo where you can pull in with your third ability, auto attack, W, and then use your Q straight afterwards. Now the first ability you want to max is your first ability. It's just the best ability overall for Darius, and leveling up the ability increases the amount of AD ratio, the base damage, it lowers the cooldown as well, and is one of Darius's main abilities. Now, interesting enough, you actually want to go for your third ability as the second level up, or the second max ability. This increases the extra armor penetration that you get from the passive, which can go up to about 35%, which will be really important the later the game goes. And it also lowers the cooldown, which means you can maybe use your third ability multiple times during the team fight. And then lastly is your second ability, obviously making sure that you level up your ultimate when possible. And like I said, when you get to level 15, Darius mainly becomes a team fight god. With all his abilities, with all his crowd control, his slows, and also being able to get resets from the ultimate, you can go around and you can start dunking everyone. That's pretty much it for Darius. We're going to head into gameplay now. I'll see you all in just a second. Alright, on to the gameplay with Darius. We go. This was a really good game, to be fair. It took me a little while, kind of. I mean, I obviously understand a little bit of how Darius works, but it took me a little while to get used to it, because Darius is one of them champions that I don't really play too much. He can be quite difficult at times, because with Darius, you always have to be in and amongst the fights, and if you make one small, little misstep or one small mistake, then Darius is really easy to kite around, really easy to kill at times as well. So we're going to be leashing level 1 of the for the Master Yi. Make sure you just auto attack 3 times when you're taking a buff. That is really important. I'm against a Fiora, which is kind of a difficult matchup. Very difficult actually at times, especially if Fiora procs her vitals. Just like that, as you can see, it can be quite annoying. She uses her ignite early on as well. Not really too sure why. I don't feel like she needed to, but maybe just trying to get that level 2 advantage. As you see, she'll probably she gets it at the moment, but she doesn't really use her level 2 to actually. No, she doesn't use her level 2 to do anything at all. So I'm just going to play passive here. I know that she's going to get level 3 very soon. I'm only level 2. So I'm just going to farm underneath my tower. Get as many minions as possible, and maybe try and look for a play at level 3. Which kind of, where Darius kind of gets online a little bit. Obviously, level 1, level 2, you're not really that strong. But level 3, if you can use the pull and then use it on top of your second ability like that, and also your first ability. Obviously, Fiora did really well there, sorry, to parry the first ability. We're going to try and walk up here, auto attack, Q, and then nice, easy first blood. So kind of Master Yi, I feel like didn't need to be there. I mean, Master Yi flashed over the wall and didn't do anything at all. But it's really good. So we got the slow from the second ability. Fiora tried to flash away, but was able to use the first ability, able to proc Noxian Might as well, which means that we get the extra AD. And with the bleed, with the ignite as well, we were able to get first blood. Now, in this situation, kind of like depends on what you want to do. You can go for Trinity Force if you really want to, or you can go for Black Cleaver. This is kind of what I was thinking at the time. I was like, do I go Black Cleaver? Do I go Trinity Force? So we're going to go for the Trinity Force this game, which, as I said, if you're ahead and if you can get ahead in the early game, I think Trinity Force is always the best option, because you're just going to deal the most damage with Trinity Force. And you're just going to be able to get further ahead, because Black Cleaver, even though it is a cheap item, it doesn't give you as many stats as Trinity Force. Obviously, Trinity Force, you get the Sheen passive as well, which works really well with Darius' second ability, because you can just proc it really easily. Now, at times, this is kind of difficult to deal with as for Fiora. You have to make sure you time your third ability really well against Fiora. Kind of bait out her third ability. I think that's the main thing. As long as you bait out her third ability, then you bait out her lunge, like her third ability, her second ability, sorry, and then use your third ability. That's what I'm trying to say. Use your third ability. I mean, again, I made another mistake there. Make sure you use your third ability after Fiora uses her riposte, her second ability, because you can get to a situation like that where if she perfectly times the parry, then you're just going to get stunned, and then Fiora's just going to be able to deal a bunch of damage with you not being able to do anything at all. As you can see, the rest of my team is not really doing too well. Fiora walks up here. Again, parries my first ability, but that's fine. I still have my ultimate as well, but I misplayed this pretty badly, to be honest. I used my ultimate a little bit too early. It's kind of because I saw the Rengar. I was like, okay, I'm just going to try and deal as much bleed damage as possible. But Rengar was there behind level 5, which I should have really realized that Rengar wasn't top side, which means that he's most likely on the opposite side of the map. It's a little bit of a misplay from myself. Again, I didn't fully stack my passive, so my ultimate can deal more damage. But sometimes there's situations where you don't need, like, you know, the full stacks of your passive to use your ultimate. Sometimes you can use it a little bit earlier just to gain an extra stack and also just to deal a bit of damage as well. So again, we're still going to keep fighting here though. You can see that, you know, sometimes what I do is I don't actually auto-attack after using my third ability. The reason being is that sometimes when you use your third ability, that little bit of a slow or a little bit of a timer that you get to dish out an auto attack afterwards, if you don't use the slow from your second ability on top of your third ability, sometimes it can be really easy for enemy champions to escape, and especially someone like Fiora as well, because Fiora has her like her lunge, dash to dash away as well. You can see that I'm going to roam here. Darius is really good, as I mentioned, during team fights. I'm going to roam and try and get a few kills here. You can see that Thresh is very, very low. I'm just going to hook onto the Rengar here, try and deal as much damage as possible to the Rengar. Unfortunately, I didn't get my reset of my ultimate, but I was here in time to help out with everyone else and get a few extra kills. And then we're able to get Dragon from it as well. Which I didn't really do that much during the fight. I think if I got the reset of my ultimate, it would have been really, really good. But I think the bleed damage was a little bit too much. But still, a roam, we got an assist. We got, I believe, 2 kills. Well, we got 2 kills. We didn't really get an assist. Oh, no, we did get an assist. We got 2 kills and an assist. So we're in a big, big lead now. We got the Trinity Force. We have the Ninja Tabbies as well. Or the Plated Steel Caps, you can call it. Which means that I'm going to be dealing a lot of damage now to this Fiora. Fioras have fallen a little bit far behind now. So what I want to do here is I want to just bait out her riposte. As soon as she uses her second ability, I know that I can just engage, you know, really, really easily. Make sure I ward as well to make sure Rengar's not here. But I know I can play aggressive now. Again, really, really good riposte by Fiora. She's reducing my healing as well with the Ignite. I use one more auto attack and the ultimate, and then we got the killing spree. So that's a situation there where I didn't use my ultimate for fully stacks because I knew that the extra damage and my Ignite and the extra stack of my passive, like the bleed damage that you get, was enough to kill off Fiora, which it was really, really close because she nearly got Honey Fruit in the end as well. But I knew that with my level lead and with my item lead as well with the Trinity Force, I could do really, really well. So I flashed, I auto-attacked to get another stack of my passive, which means my ultimate dealt a little bit more damage. And used my ultimate, even though I didn't get Noxian Might from it, I was still able to kill off Fiora. So Fiora is 0-2 now, and I'm 4-1. So I know at this point, I'm just like, okay, I can run over this game. I can be really, really strong. I'm going to go for Death's Dance as the second item. I'm going to go for Proto Belt first, though. It's actually really important to go Proto Belt quite early on, most likely before your, not before, sorry, most likely after your first item. You want to go for Proto Belt, or you can even go for it in the first back if you really want to, because Proto Belt is just so good with the third ability. So I'll use my first ability first here and just jump onto Fiora straight away. I'm going to keep auto-attacking, get Noxian Might as well. Didn't even need to use my ultimate. The reason why I didn't use my ultimate there is because I thought that Fiora might still have had her second ability. I'm not too sure if she actually used it or not. I can't even remember from watching it back as well. I use my first ability just in case you use the riposte, which means I can just use the ultimate straight afterwards as well. And I'll be completely fine. I kind of made a little bit of a mistake though this game. I was going to go for Black Cleaver this game. So I went for Ruby Crystal first item because I knew that in like the early little exchanges and the early levels against Fiora can be a little bit difficult because of her true damage and her passive, which can be really, really strong. So I went for Ruby Crystal as a first item. Again, Fiora's trying to fight me here. Not really too sure why Fiora's trying to fight me because I'm just able to get a another quick and easy kill. So yeah, I've kind of got like a Ruby Crystal just sitting there at the moment doing absolutely nothing, which is kind of a waste really of 500 gold. Hopefully I'll bring up the leaderboard soon to so you can have a look. But you might have seen that a little bit further back as well. The Ruby Crystal that I have is just sitting there because Ruby Crystal only doesn't build into anything from Trinity Force or anything from Death's Dance. The only thing I could have done is upgrade my Ruby Crystal to the tier 2 item from Dead Man's Play. You can see here I'm going to use my Proto Belt, use my auto attacks and my first ability, and that's kind of a really, really cool way that you can use a Proto Belt in combination with your third ability, so you can easily just land the pull and get a quick, easy kill. And obviously, Thresh Lantern didn't come out quick enough. Yeah, you can upgrade the Ruby Crystal to the tier 2 item that builds into Dead Man's Play. I can't remember the name for the life of me. I tried the E-Flash. He was a little bit too far away. A little bit of limit testing there. We don't talk about that. also mentioning. Yeah, so you can upgrade the health crystal into the tier 2 item from Dead Man's Plate. Then you can build Death Stance after that. But Death Stance is such an incredibly good item with Triumph and with Darius as well, because the execute damage that you get from the ultimate, and if you keep use your ultimate to get kills, then you're just going to keep getting healing after healing after healing from both Triumph and also both Death Stance as well. So we're going to pick up the Death Stance here, and then we're going to go for Steric's Gauge, which means I can finally use that Ruby Crystal that's just been sitting in my inventory for so long. So Death Stance plus Steric's Gauge is a really good combination, because the extra health that you get from Steric's Gauge makes Death Stance a little bit stronger, and also the Steric's Gauge helps you helps you stay alive for a little bit longer, and it helps you against that true damage bleed over time. So 7-1 and 2 this game, already 10 minutes into this game, and at this point, no one could really stop me. You know, no one could really 1v1 me. Obviously, Darius is really good during team fights, but when you're ahead, you can also look to split push as well at the same time if you really need to, or if you really want to. I wouldn't really recommend split pushing if you don't really know kind of how to do it, or you don't feel comfortable doing it, because sometimes you can step a little bit too far, or sometimes your team can get caught out as well. I'm going to try and use my, I thought I used Protobot E there, but I think I'm going to do it on Jin here instead. There you go. Protobot E again with the Q, with the ultimate as well. Double kill with the ultimate. And even though my ultimate went on the Thresh when I was trying to, I was trying to use it on the Jin, but it went onto the Thresh instead, which is kind of annoying, to be honest. But I still got the reset nonetheless, so it doesn't really matter. And now I'm going to use my Ignite. I'm going to use my third ability to pull Fiora in, use my second ability, use my first ability as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to kill the Fiora, but I was able to get the Noxian Might to get the passive off on the Galio, kill the Galio, get the healing from Death Stance, and then also kill Fiora straight afterwards. Now, it's really important when you know you have Noxian Might, is that when you get your ultimate reset, I didn't really mention this before, when you get your ultimate reset, it's really important to auto-attack and then use your ultimate straight afterwards. Don't do what I did there. I'm pretty sure I ultimate as soon as I saw Fiora was low on health. What you always want to do is auto-attack and then ultimate, unless they're on really low health, because your auto-attack is going to be applying 5 stacks of your passive straight away, because you have Noxian Might, because you got the kill from your ultimate. So what you want to do is you want to ultimate, auto-attack the next target, and then ultimate, which means your ultimate's going to deal more damage, which I've kind of made a mistake sometimes where I've used my ultimate. I'm like, cool, I've got my passive, I've got my ultimate reset, and then I look to just ultimate the next target instead of auto-attacking. You do not want to do that. That is a huge, massive mistake. They're trying to catch me here. Unfortunately, they can't really catch me. Fiora does jump over the wall. But again, I don't really know what she's doing. I've got Noxian Might. I'm able to use that as well. Get the kill onto, eventually, Rengar. I think I nearly died. But actually, I just realized that Brand flashed in front of me to save me. What a nice guy the Brand is. Thank you very much, Brand, if you're watching this video. 12-1-3 now on the Darius. Again, I kind of made the same mistake there. I didn't auto-attack, or I didn't use my Noxian Might to good effect there, really. Which, to be honest, you only have like 5 seconds of Noxian Might when you kill someone with your ultimate. So you don't have a long period to use your auto-attack to get Noxian Might. But to be honest, I think I had enough time to auto-attack the Rengar there and then use my ultimate afterwards. But again, a little bit of a mistake, but at least you all know now for next time. My Varus for some reason flashed. No idea why the Varus flashed. We're just trying to catch out someone here in the bushes. Rengar here. Don't really know what you're doing, buddy. We are legendary. Going to jump onto the Jin as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do anything. And now I'm just telling my team to go over to Baron, because with 20 kills to 10, Ori's going to use Herald in the top lane. Master Yi's down bot lane. I mean, there's nothing they could do against this Baron buff. Or, you know, if we take this Baron buff. Using the group pings to affection. And we're just going to take the Baron buff really easily. With Master Yi, with Darius. You can take it really easily because the bleed effect works really well. And you also got the armor penetration as well, the flat armor penetration. With Darius's third ability passive. So yeah, really easily take the Baron. We can go back to base. we can pick up our next item. So in this game, I went for Trinity Force because I was ahead, and I went for Death Stance as well for the extra bit of healing, and because they had a lot of AD damage from Jhin, Rengar, and also Fiora. Then I went for Sterak's Gauge because Death Stance and Sterak's Gauge is a great combo, and then afterwards now I'm going to go for a little bit of tank. So Dead Man's Plate is a really good item. Spirit Visage would have been a really good item in this game. Force of Nature as well. You know, any items that is going to benefit you from being like a little bit of a tank, because sometimes with Darius you do want to be a little bit tanky as well. So my team's just taking the dragon at the moment. I'm just kind of hovering to make sure Rengar doesn't try and steal it. They has a really good charm onto Thresh there. We're able to get a kill. And the great thing is here with Darius, I was able to use my Proto Belt, use my flash, use my second ability to get the slow as well. As you can see, I tried to use my ultimate, but Ari dealt enough damage. And you can see the Death Stance healing here as well. The Death Stance healing is absolutely disgusting. You can see there's all the Death Stance healing. You can see that little grayed out darker version of your green health bar. That's the extra healing that you get, and that's over time as well. So we're able to finish the game off here. 15 minutes, 14, 1, and 7 on Darius. Really clean game. A few little mistakes here and there, but obviously I explained what you should be doing differently as well. So hopefully you enjoy this sort of gameplay commentary as well of these guides. A little bit different to kind of my live gameplay from YouTube, so I like to split things apart a little bit. Yeah, this is on my Smurf account, done before on my Smurf. I think my main's currently on Master. But there you go. You can see the damage there. 24,000, nearly 25,000 damage. Ari did really well in the mid lane as well. And yeah, just the most damage in the game and really great stats overall. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for the guide today. Again, Darius, very flexible champion, very good during team fights, a very awesome champion to pick up that I will recommend you pick up if you're playing in the Baron lane. Could also be played in the mid lane as well. But yeah, as always, take care of yourselves, have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Peace.